I'm here at FEMA headquarters to thank Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, Commandant of the Coast Guard Fagan, and the Commanding General of the Army Corps of Engineers, Lieutenant General Spellman, and the FEMA administrator who's become the MVP here these days. I spent a lot of time in this room, Griswold of FEMA and the entire workforce, and many other federal agencies that are working together here. You know, they're always going to be above and beyond the running toward danger and to save lives. Most people want to run away from it. These guys run toward it. And it really matters. And it really matters. And they're helping survivors that are really in desperate need. And that's what we're doing as we focus on delivering help to the people directly impacted by Hurricane Ian. I'm going to use this. It made landfall yesterday, and it is still moving across the state today. This could be the deadliest hurricane in Florida's history. The numbers are still unclear, but we're hearing early reports of what may be substantial loss of life. And parenthetically, I should note I've spoken with the governors and the mayors and the commissioners. I've been on the phone with the governor this morning. I spoke with the commissioners and mayors, and they are worried, but every one of them are telling me what an incredible job is being done to save their cities, their towns, their counties, their ports, their bridges, etc. And in the face of serious danger, search and rescue operations got underway before dawn this morning for people stranded and who are in desperate shape.
I'm Amy Freeze. Welcome to Fox Weather's YouTube page. We have more great videos on the way, so make sure to subscribe to stay updated on all things weather.